Been to all the resorts in Tillamook already. She expired that a while ago. She's homeless though. There's two blonde-haired, blue-eyed white ladies here that I know that went to the service that's supposed to be for, well, battered adults, battered women especially. Now, out of the two blonde-haired, blue-eyed ladies, one of them got help and one of them did not. But one of them was homeless and one of them was not. I've had several people here in houses tell me that they went to those services and those services helped them. I've also had these people on the streets tell me that they've been to those services and the services did not help them. For Claire to be all the way the fuck up by Beaverton, that's how far she's gone trying to get resources. A lot of people keep telling me to do that running around. I know better than to waste all of my resources in the first fucking day getting paid. There's also the measure and meter of desperation. You're desperate for help. The government says you spend $800 in gas, you'll get help. They say if you don't spend that $800 in gas, you're not trying. Meanwhile, my disability money ain't that much. As far as Claire goes, you know, regardless of how I might feel about the situation, or how I might feel about her, or the way that I might feel about Casey, the fact is she is still a human. I understand the humanity of her decisions. I understand why she did the things that she did. I also understand that there are certain situations where it's supposed to be mutual. It's not, and I need to dip the fuck out. That doesn't mean I won't help them. It just means I can't accept promises. If you're gonna, you're gonna, you're gonna, you're gonna. But if you never do, you never do. Regardless of how many times you say you're gonna go pick your little brother up from school so your mom can actually finish a shift, your mom keeps getting a call in the middle of the shift because you didn't show up to pick up your little brother, right? I mean, isn't that kind of the idea of helping somebody out? We're not talking about people who are so incredibly stupid that they need you to tell them, oh, well, you know, your brother is at the school on 4th Street. Like, you already know where your brother's at school. You already know it's on 4th Street. The matter of knowing where it's at isn't the problem. The problem is the motivation. How important is your brother to you? You are your brother's keeper, or your sister's. When I said I used to pass out blankets on Pearl Street, that's a true story. When I said if Jesus was out there in danger of freezing to death, I'd give him a blanket, I meant it. When I said if the devil was out there in danger of freezing to death, I'd give him a blanket too. The situation between Claire and Casey, I knew what was going to go on there from the first day. Matter of fact, I telegraphed it on my channel, I often do. I understand the dynamics. I also understand that there's desperation to be considered. There's also the fact that when you are alone, you are thoroughly victimized. When somebody wants you just to go up to the camp and stay at the camp and never leave the camp, and all of a sudden you are now a possession, it's not okay. If you're going to date somebody and tell them they can't see their friends, well, that's going to give somebody obvious PTSD. It's obviously going to trigger them. As far as interpersonal relationships go, I'm not on either side. I'm on the side of the victim. And just because somebody comes up to me and tells me that they're victimized doesn't make them the victim. There's a situation of gaslighting. Now, I stay away from the homeless community here. That's because of the 6 people that are homeless that could help me. 5 of them are either drunk or on meth all the damn time, and one of them is busy babysitting someone who's an alcoholic. Then there's a situation with Robert Franklin. No, not Robert Franklin Mornick. That's the one in Chapel. Registered sex offender in Nebraska. Type the name Robert, R-O-B-E-R-T, Warnick, W-A-R-N-I-C-K, in the Nebraska Sex Offender Registry. You get to see one of my predators. Claire's only crime here is being homeless. However, because she is homeless, every aspect of her life is illegal. If she has to go to the bathroom at 2 o'clock in the morning, she's breaking the law. Hell, I'm breaking the law. And we're both forced into the situation by very similar situations. Very similar circumstances. Now, there's a lot of ins and outs that I am never going to have to go with or go through. Thank goodness. I'm also aware that I don't have to go through those problems because, number 1, I'm not a parent, and number 2, I'm not a mother. For Claire, the prospect of not being alone in this, of having I shouldn't say partner in crime because that's not the right terminology. Somebody to work through it with you. And that's what Claire needs, and that's what she was hoping Casey would be. He was not the right person for that job. The last time that I saw her, she was going to help me. There was a real fucked up situation, and it was just not happening. Now, out of everybody that Claire could have called, why is it she called me? Because the last person to call her was all the way back in October. The last person to actually call her was me. Nobody else is giving a shit. Nobody else that she knows has bothered to get back a hold of her since October. I've dealt with her. I can tell you she is not an easy person to deal with. And I can tell you why. It's the same reason I'm not fucking easy to deal with. Both of us are in sets of very traumatic situations. I'm not making excuses for the situations that I've been in as a result of her choices or her actions. What I'm saying is that there are very real and very human reasons for it. It's not some Illuminati conspiracy to destroy some hobo's life. It's not some magic unicorn at the end of a rainbow with a leprechaun sitting on top of it and a pot of gold said, "Hey, I'll give you some wishes. You don't like Sean? Well, we'll give you some wishes and we can destroy Sean's life." It's nothing like that. Same thing in Claire's life. The mentally ill tag is fucked. I can tell you beyond any shadow of a doubt that she is not schizophrenic. I can tell you beyond any shadow of a doubt that she's not delusional. I can tell you beyond any shadow of a doubt that she is aware of her fucking surroundings. She knows what time it is. She knows what day it is. She's also homeless. And while her other half, before Casey, had people in the area that he could go to and get help, was able to have an address to use. That gives him all of the advantages. All of a sudden, he's magically a responsible parent, and she's not. See, this happens more frequently than any of y'all want to admit. Whether the predator is male or female, and the victim is male or female, those are arbitrary. The situation itself is that you've got most of the people out here on the streets are here because of abuse. They are traumatized. You call it drama. It's not drama when somebody is beating your face in. That is traumatic, not dramatic. The difference is, how do you view it? If you see that person as a human being, you feel their trauma and you want it to stop. If you are entertained by it, it is drama. You and your husband arguing over who gets the horse trailer. I don't give a fuck. That's arbitrary. I don't have the money to do a goddamn thing for myself. However, I know that where she's at, if she needs, and I let her know this, if she needs, I can send her money for gas. The problem is she's been to all the services here, same as me. She's homeless, same as me. She's autistic, same as me. She's had multiple recent losses, same as me. And she's mad at me for the situation with Casey, obviously. And me speaking out, it aggravated her. But at the same time, she knows that I'll fucking be there. Caitlin Tatum knows if she needs my help, I'll fucking be there. Maddie Bowen knows that if she needs my help, I'll fucking be there. Alicia Bollinger knows to this day, if she needs my help, I'll fucking be there. Tabitha Michelle Cook knows if she needs my help, I will fucking be there. It's not a matter of me not willing to be there for them. That's for goddamn sure. If I love you, I love you. That's how it is. I didn't stop loving Mobley just because he broke his fucking neck. I didn't stop loving Rihanna just because she fucking died of a seizure. I didn't stop loving Anna just because she was beaten to death. I didn't stop loving Rory just because he had a heart attack. I didn't stop Natalie just because of the evil shit that she did. It was evil. Whether or not she looked at it that way is arbitrary. Take a look at the situation. Her predators got away and they did it to a lot more people. My predators got away and they did it to a lot more people. Not just Waylon Lolatai. But you can see his history. Not just Clearview Behavioral Health, but you can see their history. You also get to hear between the words of Teresa Massilia and the words of George Helmstetter that my cases are tied in with many of these other victims' cases with the police. Specifically because of those officers by name and the crimes they committed against me. I'm not after a girlfriend. Just too much damn work. A friend of mine told me, "Hey, Sean, do you want to have sex with that young woman?" I said, "No." And he said, "Well, if you're not going to have sex with her, don't ask her out. I haven't asked a woman out since." Makes perfect sense, don't it? But I also know that that is a bond where a lot of people believe that because they had sex with you, that that's some sort of a seal the deal, you're together thing, or you are going to work together to achieve goals thing. Being alone is a scary prospect. It's very scary because you are easiest to victimize when you are alone, and we all know this. That's the biggest issue with Ryan Ingersoll and Amy Spencer's daughters. We were in Rawlins, Wyoming. Like, I don't know how to tell you how screwed up that situation is. First of all, here I am. There's the children of somebody who I didn't know there was a problem with, first of all. But then Amy is talking to her kids, and the only one who actually has the ability to get a hold of Amy Spencer at this point is Ryan Ingersoll. And Ryan Ingersoll is smacking those kids around. I've already made several calls to the police and been blown off and ignored by the cops in Rawlins, Wyoming. I literally had to break the law to try to get them kids safe. It was worth it. In the end, it was worth it. They were able to get a good foster home. And according to Joshua Rayborn, they wrote a letter to the judge saying they didn't want to go back and live with their mom. I understand. I also understand Amy's point of view. These are her kids, her kids, her kids. Kind of like your husband, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whoever. Yours. No, this is a human being. These are human beings. Regardless of your parental rights, you're a fucking junkie who fucking harms your own children. No, I am not going to be on your side. Even after that, when Joshua Rayborn and her were having issues out in the middle of the street, and she was messed out of her fucking gourd and screaming for help, screaming that she thought he was going to kill her. What did I do? I went over to help her out. Regardless of Claire's situation with not wanting to be alone, because it is scary. It is easier to victimize you. You also, as at least 4 or 5 women on my channel have spoken about, you get a boyfriend because he'll hopefully keep you from getting raped 5 times a month and beaten up 7 times a month. If you're lucky, your boyfriend will only beat you once every 3 months. Abuse out here is rampant from both men and women. Now here's how it works. You and your husband are together, right? You got 2 beautiful daughters. Now we can change the gender roles, or it really doesn't matter. But we're gonna make the female the victim in this scenario, because that's the scenario your bias tells you you're supposed to care about. So the woman, right, she's in an abusive relationship with her husband. Her daughter says, hey, Dad's molesting me. Mom has to have that immediate fear of, all right, so what do? I definitely need to call the cops, but if I call the cops, I don't have the money to make my bills. My parents don't give 2 shits about me. I got no siblings, or my siblings are fucking all junked out of their goddamn gourd. If I turn in this predator, what's going to happen to us? Well, what happens is the government gets involved, wants a whole bunch of money and a bunch of jumping through hoops. You end up with situations like with Mariah Johnson, where she got out of an abusive relationship, and the very officers that had pulled her husband out, gotten him out of that situation, and gotten her and her kids out of that situation, Those very same officers, because it was the same county, when she was forced into homelessness because she couldn't pay the bills with just one paycheck, these officers victimized the shit out of her. And not just her. Same thing to Mandy Hughes. Same thing with Mandy Singer. And you get to hear them talk about those situations. About how when you're homeless, there's no services. These services that are all created specifically for the homeless are only there for homeless women with children or homeless veterans. And even a homeless woman with children, it's an uphill battle both ways. They take your husband away and lock him up, and then you can't pay the bills. He's still awaiting trial, but his mommy and daddy bailed him out. So now your predator is walking around free, and of course, his mom is in contact with your kids and staying in contact with your kids and telling your kids what a horrible person you are, and, you know, basically trying to convince your kids that the reason that they're locked up now. See, that's the point that it gets to. You can't pay the bills. You ended up homeless. Where the fuck do you think they're going to put your kids? You think they're going to let you be homeless with your kids? Oh, hell no. Ask Victoria Thaxik about that. She was homeless with her daughter. She had to go to a homeless service to get food. She said, hey, I can't keep going around to all these food banks and standing in line, wasting entire days of my time and all of my gas just to stand there in line all day and not get shit to eat. Like, Victoria would be better off panhandling for the money. That's seriously where it's at. But Victoria, of course, she's having to live in a car with her daughter. This is their house. They have to use gas the same way as I do to keep warm, especially in winter in Colorado. But with Victoria, what ended up happening there? They took her daughter. After they told her, all right, well, you have to go to this church. They court ordered her to go to a food bank that she'd already been to on multiple occasions. This church, though, that runs the food bank, even though the government requires you to get one signature, you get a signature once a month saying that you went there to the food bank to get resources for you and your kid. They want you to have verification, which requires a signature. Well, it costs you $50 for Victoria to drive from where she was actually able to park and not get fucked with to where this food bank is and back. She got an old car. It's not great on gas. It's not a Honda Civic. It's a fucking boat, but it's what she can fucking afford. Big ass 1980s fucking boat. So Claire, she's having the issue of her ex literally went through at least 4 states between here and Florida where it's a felony for him to transport a minor in such a way, especially if it's not his kid. That's right. The guy's name is Josh. And he abducted a 14-year-old girl who is not his and drove her to fucking Florida. When I say I understand why Claire is pissed, I understand why she's pissed. He had to drive through either Idaho or Arizona to get there. In both of those states, it's 20-year mandatory minimum. 20-year mandatory minimum. Don't go fucking stealing somebody's kids. But then again, he's got the address. Cops are automatically on his side. Claire must be a nut job, and so on and so on. Now, here's one of the situations that happened in Boulder. This woman lost both of her kids because she told on her husband for raping her oldest daughter. Now, the youngest daughter was not, how do I say this? She was fat. She wasn't the pretty daughter. Now, the situation as it ended up is this woman ended up out on the streets. Her daughters are in the system. Dad is not allowed to have contact with the daughters, at least not the oldest one, because he fucking raped her repeatedly. Now, of course, this lady is homeless on the streets. The cops are fucking with her every day. She gets a camping ticket and a trespassing ticket. Now people are trying, by people, I mean grandma and dad, are trying to claim that she's obviously a drugged out junkie who chose homelessness. And grandma keeps talking every day, gets to talk to the granddaughter, gets to say stuff like, oh, well, your dad does care about you. You know, your mom is just having some problems right now. Literally trying to sweet talk the victim into allowing her predator to get away. But she's telling this 16-year-old girl at this point, hey, you know what? If you 15-year-old girl at this point, you know, your dad just wants to work everything out. You know, your mom is obviously out on the street. She just wants to do drugs. She doesn't care about you. She's just out there getting drunk and doing drugs. She's probably a prostitute, and so on and so forth. And this goes on for months and months. Meanwhile, this lady isn't allowed to see her kids because now she's in trouble because she's fucking homeless. She's got crimes on her perfect record. A perfect record. But then she becomes homeless, and within a week of being homeless, she's got a ticket for being homeless. She got a ticket for camping. That's what her first ticket is. That's what most of us out here on the streets, our first criminal act, is simply going to sleep in public. Covering up with a blanket so we don't freeze to death. Now, this woman, after all these months, grandma convinces the granddaughter to say, oh, daddy didn't actually do that. Because the granddaughter is under this impression that if she changes her story and gives grandma what she wants, then she'll be able to see her mom, even if she has to, they call it the honeymoon period. This is after your husband beats you or your father rapes you, and he's afraid of getting busted, and he just barely got away by the skin of his teeth. He knows that you told. Everybody knows that you told, but you're supposed to play like it didn't happen. And he's going to be nice. He's going to avoid you for the most part, but when he does have to interact with you, he's going to be nice. Until he gets his opportunity again. So then, of course, what happened to that lady? I can't verify it, but I've been told she committed suicide. What ended up happening is that the daughter who told on daddy for raping her took her story back, and as a result, it was all made out by the courts and by the rapist to be the mother's fault. Some thing that she manufactured in her own head because she's a fucking drunkie whore on the streets. Obviously, she is not an honest person because trespassing is a crime of dishonesty. It can prevent you from being able to or allowed to work with money for 7 years. That means you can't even become a cashier at a retail store. And you guys want to tell them about, oh, you just need to get a job. You just need to get a job. God. Most of the folks out here on the streets had a job when they became homeless. They lost their job jumping through hoops. Example, Victoria Thatcher. In order to get her signature from the church, it wasn't one day of going there and getting half a week's worth of groceries for two people. It cost her $50 for what, $50 worth of food? If that. Meanwhile, she's living in a car. Most of the food that she's able to get is not going to keep. So her and her daughter are eating at a knockoff brand ravioli cans, but at least they have a knockoff brand ravioli can, right? In order to get the signature, the church required her to go to Wednesday night meetings every single week. If she missed a meeting, she wasn't going to get the signature. So instead of it costing her $50 to get $50 worth of groceries and taking a whole day out of her life, now she's got 5 days out of a month that she has to expend going to this church so that she can get a signature. She only, out of all those 5 trips in a month, she only gets food one of them. It costs her $50 for every one of those trips because it's court ordered. She was going to these services already. It wasn't enough. And now you are charging her 4 extra trips and 4 extra days. She's not just paying for it. She has to take 5 days out of her life where she's not making any fucking money. And she's paying you for those 5 days. Now let's say she makes $50 a day. That's about what Labor Ready pays. Let's say she gets a job out of Labor Ready, right? And they'll send her out some days, and some days she won't. Now, if they give her $50 for working for the day, and she has to go out and spend 5 days where she's not making any money, but she has to spend $50, she has to spend 1 day working for every day that she is waiting on that fucking church to get their heads out of their ass. Stop pushing your Jesus on us. We need help. Actual help. And you are raping us for all of our fucking resources. There is no reason in the United States of America, with the laws that we have in place, that Claire should be all the way up by Beaverton, still seeking help. And if she has to go that far to try to get help, what hope is there for me? Now, I do know that in the story with that 15-year-old girl, she's an adult now. I do know that. I also know that she doesn't speak to her dad, will not ever speak to her dad, and that her little sister will never speak to her dad. And that was before their mother maybe committed suicide, maybe not. I don't know. I want to verify it first. Kind of like with Christine Bouhit. I'd been told that she was dead before, and she ended up not being dead. So I wanted verification from somebody who knew her. Verification from somebody like Ed Simmons. Because they had a kid together. Anyway, Claire wanted to call up and reschedule to try to work with me on my stuff. I let her know I might be heading to the slabs. That's right, I'm a Babylonian. If you don't live in Slab City, they call the rest of this Babylon. I highly recommend looking up Slab City and finding out about it. With Claire, there's children involved. So, even though she's wanting to schedule to help me out, this is probably going to be one of those situations where we have to drop my shit first. Morally, that's what needs to be done. I got to drop my shit long enough to help her with her shit, so that her kids don't end up in a way more fucked up situation. Y'all use kids in such a horrible way to get back at somebody for not wanting to be your partner anymore, for not wanting to work together with you anymore. But you know what? Most of that is because you aren't working together with them. It's a one-sided relationship. You get what you want. Your wife provides what it is that you expect out of her, and if you don't get what you expect out of your wife, you take it out of your daughter. Right now, we got to worry about the fact that Robert Franklin Warnick's daughters are rapidly approaching puberty. What are the chances that Robert Franklin Warnick is going to be able to keep his nasty cockbeaters to himself? With Claire, the fact that the state government, local services paid for by your tax dollars that are not actually associated with the government, but they're associated with the government. The replacement DHS peoples. They send you to one of these mental health places. And these mental health places, when you're out on the streets, they just want you to come back every week because they get paid every week. If you show up every week, they get paid every week. If they help you to turn in your predators, they may only have you going in and out of their office for 6 weeks. That's the average for somebody in a house, 6 weeks. What's the average for somebody out on the streets? 4 years. 4 years worth of jumping through that before most people give up. That's right, they have to give up. Because these services don't help people that don't have a permanent address, a steady address. And how are you ever going to have that when you're victimized into moving by every law enforcement agency that you encounter? Because they automatically treat you like a junkie because you're homeless. Automatically treat you like you don't matter because you're homeless. For the situation with Marcia Estrada, she should have made a call the first time that we met. That was in the jail in Scotts Bluff. With Nicole Peralta, she should have made a call the first time we met. How long did they drag it out? For Nicole Peralta, that started in 2017, sorry. The very beginning of 2017. So we'll go all of 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. We're at the very end of 2022. 6 years. Now, did I go to her the whole time? No, I couldn't fucking afford it. Just like Victoria Thatcher couldn't afford 10 days out of her life for $50 worth of fucking food. She got to come up with $250. Might not seem like a lot, but goddamn, it's a lot, especially when your vehicle is what's keeping you warm, and that gas is fucking expensive. So let's hope that Claire doesn't need to call me. Let's hope that she's able to gas jug it and get to where she needs to go. My vehicle being illegal, it's scary prospect for me to drive up there to try to help her, because if they take my vehicle and take all my evidence and I'm stuck without a vehicle, I can't take care of myself and I can't protect myself in this town. Thank goodness for Starbucks and their safe place policy. Thank goodness for Denny's and the folks there being good to me. Anyway, you know how we end these videos. Good to be rid of you. Thanks for coming to visit. Stay out of trouble or don't get caught. Remember, you are your brother's keeper and no victim left behind.